Vedanta Resources is based in London, and then we have Vedanta Limited, is the Indian entity, and the various businesses that we are in. We are into oil and gas, which is basically the K in India, and then we are into zinc, lead and silver, which is Hindustan Zinc, copper, India and Zambia. We also have a copper mine in Australia, which basically gives us less than 5% of our total concentrate requirement. And then we have aluminum, which is Vedanta Aluminum, consisting of Balco, and then we also have Vedanta Aluminum in Odisha and Jharsuguda. And then iron ore, which is the Sesa iron ore, Sesa Goa. And of course we have copper Zambia also. So these are the various businesses that we are in. Coming to Sterlite Copper. Sterlite Copper, we started operations in the year 1996. And basically we were invited by the government of India, which looked at the huge requirement of copper given the kind of developments that were being planned. And we were the first private copper smelter. You know, we had, of course, Hindustan Copper, the public sector unit, which had a small unit in Khetri. However, that capacity was not sufficient to meet the entire requirements of the country, which was developing. So therefore, we set up this unit in Tamil Nadu. In 1996, it was 100,000 ton per annum capacity at that time. And then over the years, it has grown to 400,000 tons. And then we have a refined market share of 36% of the Indian market, and the largest producer of sulfuric and phosphoric acid in South India. And we are a zero effluent discharge plant right from the inception. It is part of a consent to operate condition. Direct employment of over 4,000 people in Thoothukudi, of which 70% are from Tamil Nadu. So this is a broad demographics, broad details of the plant. These are the various products that we are into: copper, sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid, phosphogypsum and ferrosand are the byproducts, which basically goes into wires and cables and various other products, fertilizers, cement, etc. And we have a very strong CSR activity. We believe in growing with the community. We believe in having a connect with the community around us. And we have various programs. We have the health program where we have regular health vans going to all the villages, 2 villages per day. We have a Ilam Mottukal program, which is basically giving education to 8,000 girl children. We have a vocational training program, which gives free training to various youth in Thoothukudi, and also 100% guarantee of jobs. So these are some of the various CSR programs that we have. We have a philosophy of zero harm, zero waste and zero discharge. In terms of zero harm, we've implemented single point accountability program and behavioral based safety programs. We basically nurture people to get into safety. We want people to get into safety from across the cross-functional groups. We've also won the British Sword of Honor, which is, I think, the first for an Indian company. In terms of zero waste, all our solid waste management is absolutely on the dot. We've been given a condition by the Pollution Control Board to ensure that whatever is generated within a month, that is the gypsum and slag, we put it to good use, and that is being done without fail. Zero discharge is something which we do it without fail. We have set up RO units, reverse osmosis units in our plant to ensure that all the water that we consume is actually recycled and then put back into use. And we take only the water, the additional water, and 70% of that additional water comes through desalination route. So only about 30% we take it from the required water. In terms of global benchmarking, we are number 7 in terms of the energy consumption. In terms of water consumption, we are number 2. In terms of sulfur dioxide emission, we are the second lowest in the world. The best smelter in the world is Orbis in Germany, and this smelter is situated right in the midst of the town, and there are absolutely no complaints. And our emission rate is only next to that, which is just about 4.6 kilos of sulfur dioxide per ton of cathode, which is the final product. And in terms of sulfur dioxide conversion rate, we are 99.92% of the entire sulfur dioxide which is generated as part of the smelting process is captured and converted into sulfuric acid, and that sulfuric acid, which is made in 2 sulfuric acid plants, is put to good use by giving it to core industries like fertilizer industries. We also give it to various detergent industries and chemical industries across Tamil Nadu. Here I just want to come to the crux of the entire thing. These are the various news or various fake news which is doing the rounds. I can go through the entire thing, but due to paucity of time, maybe I'll just go through the major ones. So the first one is basically the copper production being a thing for cancer. And what the story is going around is that Thoothukudi has become the cancer capital of Tamil Nadu. I think nothing can be further than the truth. Because if you look at the statistics of the Tamil Nadu Department of Health, out of 32 districts, Thoothukudi is number 14 in males and number 25 in females. And in fact, Chennai, Kanyakumari, Kadalur, and such, these are the districts who are in the top 3. So there is nothing further from the truth. And also, sulfur dioxide is not a recognized carcinogen. So there is absolutely no base for this. The second untruth which is being talked about is that the plant is the major contributor of sulfur dioxide in Thoothukudi. Yes, I mean a lot of sulfur dioxide is emanated from the smelting process, as I said. But the same thing is captured by 2 sulfuric acid plants, and the entire thing is converted into sulfuric acid. So it's basically an environmental mitigation measure as well as a productive use. Whereas in the same Thoothukudi region, we have 4,000 megawatts of power plants. And all these power plants are thermal power plants using coal, which contains 0.5 to 2.5% of sulfur in it. And all this sulfur, when burnt, goes directly into the air because power plants are not mandated to have any flue gas desulfurization system as of now. And it is only recently that the government has mandated, the date given was by December 2017, they should have FGDS systems in their plants. They should have systems, low NOx burners to ensure that NOx emissions are controlled. Their ESPs, their electrostatic precipitators should be functioning properly. So all this investment required would be in excess of 1 crore per megawatt installed. So that means for all these power plants to function properly, they need in excess of 4,000 crores investment. And that is something which, as you would all know, it is nothing to sneeze about. And the tragedy here is that when all these power plants, they contribute more than 99% of the total sulfur dioxide in the air, whereas the sulfur dioxide from our plant is less than 1%. And these power plants have been issued show cause notices by the Central Pollution Control Board in April 2018, stating that they should set right their systems latest by December 2020, otherwise they will cease to function. And at the same time, we have been shut down, where we contribute less than 1% of the total sulfur dioxide in the air. We have been shut down without so much as a show cause notice. Our plant was functioning absolutely fine for the last 5 years. There were no show cause notices, there were no complaints from the villagers, and we were about to take a major shutdown once in 4 years, which we did at the end of March, and it was supposed to last till May, mid of May. So that's where we are. So therefore there are several other various myths that we are talking about, that the plant operations have led to low rainfall in Thoothukudi. Majority of our employees are from North India. Plant discharges effluents into the sea. We should have had a pipeline, a 15-kilometer pipeline into the sea. So we're talking about expansion leading to scarcity of water in Thoothukudi. And copper slag is a toxic material. We have got ITRC, Indian Toxicology Research Center reports saying it is not leachable, it is non-toxic. Similarly, we got other that we have not developed the sufficient green belt. We have developed actually 43 hectares of green belt. You just saw the picture. We were asked to deposit 100 crore deposit by the Supreme Court in 2013. There were two reasons for this. The one was that the Neary report, I think in 2005, they found certain deviations in the parameters, but the Supreme Court categorically said that these deviations were not so serious as to require the plant to be shut down. They very clearly said that these deviations could be set right, and they gave us 30 conditions to set it right, and we adopted them. The second point was that for a certain period of time, we had operated without the consent to operate. Now here again, every year we have been making applications to the Pollution Control Board for renewal of our consent to operate. Every year we used to pay out 15 to 20 lakhs, and that is the TNPCB fees for renewal of the consent to operate. And for whatever reasons, the Pollution Control Board did not renew it, nor did they deny it. As part of the Water Act, if the renewal is not done within a period of 30 days, it is a deemed consent. So we were basically operating as a deemed consent. However, the Supreme Court took it upon themselves to say that such a large industry cannot operate without the consent to operate, and for no fault of ours, it laid this deposit of 100 crores, and the interest for this 100 crores was supposed to have been used to be put to good use for the betterment of the environment in the region. And over the last 5 years, the interest has grown to 40 crores. And how much has been spent for this? 4 crores have been spent. And for what? It has been spent on roads. It has not been spent for any environmental mitigation measure in and around our plant. So are we to assume that there were absolutely nothing wrong with the environment because of which the Pollution Control Board did not feel it necessary to spend these 40 crores? We have been making several representations to the government stating that this interest is there for please for good use. So this has not happened. What is the impact of this entire thing? There is a huge impact. More than 400 businesses have been marching towards a shutdown. More than 1 lakh employees are directly affected all over Tamil Nadu. You have more than 4 lakh people's livelihood which is dependent on this. You have 2 lakh CSR beneficiaries who are being denied all the facilities. Apart from this, there has been a lot of effect on the downstream industries because increase in copper prices, sulfuric acid prices have gone up more than 3-fold, phosphoric acid prices have gone up by about 20%. All this is leading to various companies shutting down, like Coimbatore Fertilizers has shut down. There is a loss to the exchequer to the tune of 2,000 crores per annum, and a total of nearly 60,000 crores of turnover is being affected. That includes our turnover, the downstream industry's turnover, and the various vendors, etc. So I would like to end out here with the statement that corporate has a social responsibility and society has a social media responsibility. So therefore, we have to protect our people and the industry.
I would like to assure this audience that whatever facts I am mentioning today is all from official records, either from the Pollution Control Board reports or the reports of NERI filed before the Supreme Court or the Supreme Court Monitoring Committee on Hazardous Material. This is going to be the basis of all the data that I am presenting, and all this data is available in the public domain, and all of you could go back to check the facts. I think since the entire purpose and the spirit of the debate is to raise the larger issues, I just wanted to share one report which was brought by the National Diet, one independent committee of the Japan government, which went into the Fukushima disaster. And the entire approach, if you look at the chairman's preliminary note as a preface to that report, he says that Fukushima is a man-made disaster, he admits, and he says we owe a responsibility to the global citizen to explain what went wrong. And there they identified one major issue, which is collusion between the regulators, the industry, and the government. And the chairperson goes back to apologize and says, more than the act of collusion, what was even more worrying was the Japanese mindset. He says it was a mindset which was so dominated by the fact of the Japanese government wanting to be self-sufficient in energy after the oil shock, that in a single-minded fashion they went about pursuing nuclear energy, and it was a directive from the government that no matter what, nuclear energy should happen. And so the regulators, the government officials, and TEPCO itself was willing to bypass many of the regulatory measures because they wanted to, the nuclear power plant was seen as a holy cow. And the chairman actually admits it, and he says it is this mindset, that an unquestioning mindset which will no matter what is willing to subvert the entire regulatory processes just because the government is interested in a particular end. He says that is what is most worrying, and that is what needs to be addressed. And I think that is the situation that we in India are. Because very often environment and development are pitted one against the other, and one is made to choose. And why should we choose? Why can't we have both? Or why don't we redefine development? I think these are all larger issues that we need to really look at. And today, what I'm trying to present is the mindset of the corporates, is the mindset of our regulatory authorities, which is the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, and then the government itself. Now, having said that, as an environmental lawyer, we have been repeatedly looking at environmental impact assessment reports, the Pollution Control Board reports of groundwater analysis, water analysis, air analysis, and what we find very often is the best of minds, the best of technocrats, highly qualified, IIT, IIM, Anna University, it could be top ranking institutions, but it doesn't take much to go through those environment reports and find that the whole thing is fudged. It doesn't take an expert, a lawyer like me can see through it. I mean, though I've been reading it, but I think even a lay person who's even remotely familiar with some, because most of it is even illogical, that is the level of reports that we get. And I think anybody who takes a pain to go through about 10 reports will know it's a repeat everywhere. So this is I think the basic dishonesty and the mindset of the educated middle class technocrats, which is I think the most worrying thing, because the ordinary citizen is looking to these scientists to tell us the truth. And when they betray the people, then they lose faith in the system altogether. So I think that is the mindset that we need to look at. Now, for instance, I don't want to dispute any of the facts with regard to what the MD of Vedanta has presented. It could all be true. But from the documents which are available, now the land issue in terms of fudging of data, that is what I'm most concerned about. When the expansion of Sterlite took place from 900 to 1,200 tons, they claimed that they had 172 hectares of land, for which 43 hectares would be the green belt. But the same Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board with the report, inspection report for that same area says that it's only 102 hectares. Now you might be thinking it's quibbling with numbers. Okay, if it's about 70 hectares less, how does it matter? It does, because it significantly impacts environment. Because one of the main conditions of any large industries is that, Sterlite is a large red industry, even as per the category given by the Pollution Control Board. As per the MOEF guideline, that is the Ministry of Environment and Forest guidelines, you need a green belt of 500 meters for every large industry and a green belt of 1000 meters between two large industries. But however, the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, for reasons which I would leave any of you to guess, suddenly reduces it to 250 meters as far as Sterlite is concerned. So straight away 50% reduction in the requirement of green belt. Now why do you need a green belt? Green belt is not for aesthetics. It is not to have, just a green look when you go in to have the lawns and the, pleasant to the eye. Green belt serve as a natural biological filters. They perform a very important and in fact a very cheap method for all industries. It costs you nothing. You just need to grow the right kind of plants, because plants, depending upon, and there is an entire science behind it, depending upon the industry, depending upon the nature of pollutants, the particle size, the chemicals involved, you have data to tell you what are the kind of plant that you have to plant at what distance. Now why is it that the Pollution Control Board reduces the requirement from 500 to 250 for Sterlite? It did. And then that's not the entire story. A little later, the Sterlite writes to Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board and tells them, look here, we don't have that kind of land. Yes, they don't have, because when they got the clearances, they claimed that they had one extent, but in reality, they didn't have that extent of land. So they said, we can't have 250 meters of green belt. So then, Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board very conveniently and very generously said, well, you can't have 250 meters, well, have 25 meters. So why? What does it speak of both the regulator and the industry? These are the concerns. Then let us look at, and this data, it continues. Now the second plant is coming. Now you have 103 hectares in one place, 172 hectares, and a logical assumption is, now the balance missing 73 hectares or 70 odd hectares is now required by the company to show for the second plant. So you have the same parcel of land which is being shown. Well, you want land for the first plant, here is the land. You want land for the second plant, well, here is the same land. So this is the kind of corporate responsibility that we are talking about as far as environmental issues are concerned. Then, as far as sulfuric acid emissions are concerned, yes, it's true that the thermal power plants are definitely producing a lot more sulfuric fumes than Sterlite. But then, what is the difference? All the thermal power plants, people here coming from this, our state, I suppose most of you would be familiar that the thermal power plants are all located along the coastline. So fortunately, the sulfuric fumes are washed into the sea, so it doesn't harm. But whereas the Sipcot industrial estate where Sterlite is located is surrounded by villages. So even if it's 1%, it all sits there. And you are looking at an incremental load of sulfur dioxide which is descending year after year on the helpless villagers. And it is that is what is the problem. It is not whether, and at any rate, I think we have passed the stage to say, look here, I am not the only one polluting, X, Y, Z are all polluting. That is no answer. The issue is that am I polluting, and if so, how do I stop that? I think that is what every industry needs to look at. Pointing your finger at somebody else is not going to help the citizen. It may help the industry tomorrow, but it doesn't actually sell by now. I don't think anybody is willing to buy that. Then as far as the next problem with regard to, one is the location of the plant, the second is the stack heights. For the very same capacity plant, which is the unit 2 of Sterlite which is coming, the design stack height for letting out the sulfuric acid fumes is 162 meters. But what is the existing stack height for unit 1? It is 60. The prescribed standard, depending upon the capacity which was originally installed, was 68 meters. But Sterlite put up a 60 meters height stack. Why the reduction for Sterlite? Then when they expanded, what did they do? They built another 60 meters stack height, a second chimney. How does it going to help? It's all going to descend down. Because the idea of having chimneys at a particular height, there are calculations for it. Everything is a stipulated formula for it. If you have an X amount of production, this is the stack height that you need to put up. Then having 10, if you just say you need to have 1,000 meter one, you can't have 10 or 100 meters and say, well, I have 1,000 meters. If it is 102, 167 which is required for the second unit, how is it that you are happy with 60 meter stack? The stack height is very crucial from an environmental point of view, especially from public health point of view, because it enables the dispersion of the fumes. When it is high, obviously the dispersion is much wider. But when the stack height is low, it all descends in and around the villages. And that is why today we are living in a scenario where the people of Thoothukudi and the villages around are complaining of a whole range of diseases, beginning from brain tumors, which is recorded by the Tirunelveli Medical College. It's not again my data or anecdotal data. It is again, there is a report which has come up from a government medical college, and they talk about increased, statistically significantly higher rates of respiratory problems. You have menstrual problems among women. There are more joint pains, muscular diseases, you name it. In and around Sterlite's factory, the diseases are much higher than the average. Now, I think looking at mega data, like district level statistics, can be very misleading. You are looking at village level clusters. If in this room today, if we are all fumed, then I think if you are going to have sulfuric acid here, then suddenly the incidence is going to be high in this room. But if you are going to say, well, we'll take the entire population of Chennai and then say it is statistically insignificant, it is taking us nowhere. So you are looking at clusters, and what it requires is a proper study. We want a proper health survey, which has been one of the main demands of the villagers. Why is it that as a government, as a corporate, as a regulator, all three together are not willing to do a proper health survey? Why are they not willing to do a proper screening? People are suffering. I mean, it's not a figment of their imagination. When they see somebody dying in front of them, they know maybe it is anecdotal. Whose responsibility is it to find out the right statistics? Why is it that our government is failing us? That, I think, is the anger among the people. So, and the so-called health surveys that the company is claiming are health camps. Everybody knows that there is a lot of difference between a health survey and a health camp. Running health camps takes us nowhere. And I have seen health camp reports of many in the course of my practice. The same set of people are repeated year after year. They say that we are doing our health camps. I think it's just a copy-paste job. We are not even sure if they even bring those people. And what is the kind of screening? They test them for height, weight, hemoglobin. This is all. Nobody is looking for all the occupational hazards and the complaints that they are looking at. Nobody is serious of wanting to even screen. So it is this betrayal, I think, which is angering the population. And so to rubbish everything as a figment of imagination, as fake news, may not be doing justice to the people there. Then, with regard to pollution in groundwater, with regard to pollution of air, NEERI has repeatedly pronounced, I mean, it's not ordinary pollution. Groundwater there has been polluted with arsenic, chromium, lead, iron, you name it, all the heavy minerals are there, the metals are there. So obviously the disease, it's groundwater. So groundwater is not confined to a particular area, it could seep anywhere. So again, these are all data which in fact, even in the 2018 reports, which is now Sterlite, which has Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, has finally refused to extend the consent to operate to Sterlite. And the Sterlite industry itself has filed documents of the analysis reports of the Pollution Control Board before the appellate authority. And while in the body they claim that, oh, we are all fine, if you really bother to look at the data, I think generally the hope is that we will not look at the figures. I mean, you dump us with a lot of data, then the hope is that it's too bulky and there's too much of information overload, and so we won't look at the final print. But we did. And even as per the documents that they have supplied, in every parameter the pollution load is much higher than the drinking standards which are prescribed. So if the villagers are complaining today, it is not without a basis, and it is not because somebody is instigating them. And if you are looking at a 100-day agitation, can a 100-day agitation of people, and 100-day was, you're looking at the larger picture, but even before this final the onslaught or whatever you want to name it has happened, you have had villagers spontaneously in their respective villages having dharnas, fasts, cyclical fasts, protests happening. It was not reported in the media, but merely because the media didn't care, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. This is now documented. You have groups who have gone there and documented all this. So it has been building up over years. So if you have had people sustaining an agitation for 100 years, for 100 days, it didn't happen overnight. It has been a built-up frustration of 20 or 30 odd years, where even in this 100-day agitation, what did they do? They knocked at the doors of the collector. The collector did not come to see them. They went every Monday, grievance day. And many people in this room probably could pick up the telephone and call the collector, but not so the villagers there. They have to give up their day's wages, give up their day's labor, and go spend an entire day waiting at the collectorate and waiting to meet the collector. Monday after Monday they have gone for the grievance. It is supposed to be a grievance day, but no collector was willing to come and talk to them. And even to get an audience with the collector, there had to be a protest. Then the collector comes and says, as a collector I have no powers, there is nothing much I can do about it. So this has been the response of, this is the side of the establishment which the villagers have been facing over a period, and I think that is a source of anger. And if we dismiss it as a misguided, elements who have come and who whipped up emotions, I think we are not fooling them, we are fooling ourselves, because I think we are still not willing to realize that there is a serious issue there, and we, the intellectuals of Tamil Nadu, have preferred to turn a blind eye, and if we think that we can, and I think people there are wiser, they know the pollution. Maybe the media can sell it to people like us who have never been there, that it is, I don't know, various kind of, it could be activists, it could be foreign hand. I think now there is some rumors about, I think church money, or, all kinds of rumors. I think it doesn't sell because they are facing the reality of the pollution. You have sulfuric acid mists which are descending upon them. And when they are confronted with that, and it's become a part of the Thoothukudi lexicon. If you go to the people there and you see an eczema patch, you know what is the term for it? It is a Sterlite patch. And you go to a medical shop, and the moment they go with a respiratory disorder, you know what they say? Oh, Sterlite vyadhiya, idu eduthukonga, idu saapidunga. So it has become part of the local lexicon, the local language. If it has reached that level, I think we are fooling nobody when we say that it is a matter of managing the media better, or shutting down, or ensuring that the social media is shut down, or pursuing. We have seen situations that they have identified people who the establishment has perceived as the leaders. They have been targeted, there have been arrests, there have been lawyers who have been doing their job, who because they filed petitions, they have been picked up and arrested. This kind of suppression may not take us very far, because the pollution there is real. And unless we are willing to look at that and address it in a very serious and an honest way, I think this kind of managing the media, managing the people, or oppressing the people, or silencing somebody, or putting the fear in somebody else is maybe a temporary suppression. Maybe if you put all the top leaders there, or whom you see as the community organizers behind bars, maybe you'll be able to suppress it for a short period. But it's bound to come back, because as long as the pollution exists, people are bound to protest, because it is their children, it is their futures which is being affected day in and out. So I think one of the things that Mr. Narayan had said is, as an environmental lawyer, as an environmental advocate, what is the solution? First thing is transparency. Is Sterlite today, because we have reached this stage, instead of merely saying we are being wronged in being shut down, are they willing to come upfront with all the data? For instance, the material balance. What is the assay report of the copper that they are importing? No, assay report is what is the breakup of the content. You are getting the copper from, it's all imported. So what is the breakup? Because every copper that you import has other heavy metals, lead, arsenic, the whole lot of it. And can you give us a breakup and balance the equation? Material balance is, you have brought in so much, you have now manufactured a product, you have to account for the rest of it. So basically you are balancing the equation. Will Sterlite come out and give that data to all of us here? We all have a right to know, because when you are operating in the public domain and when it is affecting public health, I think as citizens we have a right to know as to what is the pollution level there, What is the ingredients they are using? Are they able to account for every bit of arsenic? Because it either has to be part of the product or it has to be part of the pollutant. If they are claiming zero liquid discharge, zero waste, and I think zero whatever, how is it that NEERI reports from 98 to 2018 have, whether it is NEERI or Pollution Control Board, they have repeatedly found that there is groundwater pollution, there is air pollution. So if there is zero liquid discharge is a myth, let me tell you that, because even in Tirupur, I think most of you would have seen the papers today that the Noyal River is frothing. If Noyal River is frothing, I can show you affidavit of all the Tirupur dyeing industries claiming before the High Court that they have achieved zero liquid discharge. If every industry there has achieved zero liquid discharge, and from where is the froth in Noyal coming? So these are the serious, honest issues. For once, as intellectuals, let us be honest. Let us not be preoccupied of somehow we should let the industry work. So, and don't pit environment vis-a-vis workers. Both are equally vulnerable. It is like pitting the mother-in-law against the daughter-in-law. Both are victims of the system. So whether it is the poor worker who was likely to lose jobs or the people around the plant who are being affected, don't use one against the other. Ultimately, both are going to suffer. Let us be honest, let us evaluate it properly and touch our conscience and see what can be done.
She spoke about the green belt, 43 hectares, etc. And then she also talked about the location of the plant. Now, all these points have been time and again, actually all these points have been brought forward, discussed, debated and closed in the Supreme Court case where we got the judgment in 2013. And in the law, there is a doctrine of finality. And in the 2013 case of the National Green Tribunal, the National Green Tribunal has very clearly said in the final judgment about this doctrine of finality, where it talks about that when the highest court of the land has considered all these various issues about the green belt, about the location of the plant in Sipcot area, about zero discharge, all these facts were debated extensively, all the data was provided, and when the highest court of the land has passed a judgment stating that all these points have been considered, debated and closed, then there is no point that these things should be brought up again and again. It says very clearly that these points should not be agitated and re-agitated again and again. So it makes a mockery of the judgment which was passed by the highest court of the land. Then she's talking about the stack height. The stack height is determined by a formula. When we started in 1996 with a capacity of 100,000 tons per annum, the norm for sulfur dioxide that was specified to us was 4 kilos of sulfur dioxide per ton of sulfuric acid produced. That was the norm. And based upon that norm, the stack height was calculated and informed to us, and then it was designed, and then we set up a stack height of around 60 meters or so, whatever it was. Thereafter, in 2005, when we went from 100,000 tons per annum to 300,000 tons per annum, the norm of sulfur dioxide emission was made much more stringent, and as against 2 kilos, that is the world standard norm, was 2 kilos of sulfur dioxide per ton of sulfuric acid produced. We were given a very, very stringent norm of 1 kilo of sulfur dioxide per kilo or per ton of sulfuric acid produced. So therefore, on the one hand, you had the capacity which went up from 1 lakh to 3 lakhs and then to 4 lakhs. But on the other hand, the norm, the sulfur dioxide emission that we were allowed to put through the stack came down 4 times. It reduced 4 times. So therefore, the calculation takes that into account. Not only that, I think they conveniently forgot the fact that we have earlier had only 1 sulfuric acid plant, and now we have 2 sulfuric acid plants. So therefore, we have 2 stacks, 1 for each stack, 1 for each plant. And I can show you the data right away, although we don't have.
I don't want you to do a rebuttal point by point. Because I think she made a point which I think.
No, I think she made so many points. So unless I rebut it point by point, I don't think the audience will be convinced.
No. My point, she made a basic point was of basic dishonesty.
No, I think
we need.
Mr. Narayanan, I fully appreciate your point, but I'm here. I'm talking with data. I'm giving absolute data out here. I'm talking about the stack height calculation.
No, I agree.
I'm also talking about the Tirunelveli study. I got the conclusions of the Tirunelveli study out here. So I would like to read out the Tirunelveli study also out here, which will probably set things right out here. Very clearly it says that in and around, talking about respiratory diseases, etc. The Tirunelveli study very clearly says that automobiles are found to be a major source of air pollution in the study area. They emit hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, lead nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. In and around Sterlite, large numbers of trucks and other heavy vehicles are moving, which are the basic cause of respiratory tract infection. That is the conclusion. I have one more out here, which says that about the skin diseases. In this study, there were no cases of skin cancer caused by arsenic or any other chemicals. This is about the skin. I can also talk to you about the other, the health status of Sterlite workers report shows there is no significant incident of prevalence of occupational industrial hazards among the workers. Arsenic-related diseases and risk factors in and around 5 kilometers of Sterlite Industries is nil. Dermatologists in the team who have examined the skin cases opined that none of the cases had the signs and symptoms of arsenic poisoning. All skin diseases are of routine in nature and do not resemble those symptoms reported in literature in arsenic poisoning. This is the conclusion, the entire conclusion of I had actually studied for 3 months, and the entire material balance is available. So I'm sure that you can have that out there. In terms of the Vedanta delisting, it has nothing to do with this situation. The Vedanta board took a decision much before the entire thing happened. I think it is a complete coincidence that it happened at similar time. The major point was that there was no more reason for being listed in the London Stock Exchange because the company felt, or rather the board felt, that raising of funds is not required. So therefore, it was agreed to delist the Vedanta. The other point I think Ananda Vigadan was making was that the press tried to reach out and then they did not get an opportunity to meet us. I don't know why that happened, and if it happened, I totally apologize, and it shouldn't have happened. You were also talking about the press meet which was planned in Chennai in April, and it did not happen. It did not happen for a very, very good reason. We had organized the press meet in a hotel, and in fact I came there and we had asked for a conference room for the press meet. But I would say once again, because of irresponsible WhatsApp messages going around, again I would say that WhatsApp messages, threatening WhatsApp messages to the hotel they refused to allow us to have the press conference there. In fact, I wanted to extend my stay by a few hours, and I was asked to leave by that hotel. And I specifically asked the general manager what was the reason. And they kept giving all kind of wishy-washy reasons. And only later on, when I accosted the general manager, was I told the correct reason. That they did not want the press meet out there because they had a responsibility to their guests. I said I was also a guest out there. And in case this was the reason, then I myself would have cancelled it. In fact, because I already got to know about it from some other source, I cancelled it. And thereafter, we had some individual press meets. So that was the reason. So when I talk about irresponsible social media causing kind of fear, I'm talking the absolute truth. The other point about thermal power, I really could not make out. But I think somewhere you asked about where copper is used. I think we are all sitting here in this comfort because of copper. If copper was not here, then I don't think...
What is your contribution to India's economy?
Contribution to India's economy.
What is the quantity?
Quantity.
No, I think we should just give the panelists a chance, and
We
if
are
you have further questions.
36% of the domestic share or domestic demand of copper is contributed by us.
No,
Exports, yes, exports also.
Sorry, please.
Don't hide it. Sir, I think. Then there was one more question about section 144. I think we got to know from again the social media messages, the incendiary messages in social media. The social media messages showed the Sterlite plant burning. There were messages threatening people who supported us. There were messages which said that May 22nd would be the last day for Sterlite Copper. There were messages saying that Sterlite Copper and the employees of Sterlite Copper would be beaten and made sure that they would leave Thoothukudi. These were the kind of messages that were floating around social media, and therefore we felt that we brought this to the attention of the authorities, and we felt that we should have protection of our assets, protection of our people. So therefore we sought protection through the High Court for a distance of 500 meters perimeter around our plants and around our townships. But I'm sorry to say that despite that, this entire incident happened. We are very, very sorry. We regret the loss of the 13 lives. I think this entire incident should not have happened at all. For what reasons it happened, I think I leave it to a different agency. But I would say that this is most unfortunate and it shouldn't have ever happened. I think the agency should get into who are the people who started this entire thing, who are the people who incited the minds of people, who are the people who polluted people's minds using social media and using whatever possible. And I think very, very coincidentally today, I see in the papers that the government of India has once again asked Facebook to actually restrain the number of the kind of messages that are floated around in Facebook, the incendiary and incitive messages. So that is a fact. I wish this had come much earlier.
Sir, you missed the point of why our plant was not given permission in other states. You have not answered the question. Sir, you have not answered the question.
Please, if you have further questions, I may please request you to take it
He has not
up.
answered the important question. He has not answered the important question. Why our plant was not given permission in Maharashtra and Orissa? Even I have...
Sir, there are 2-3 questions remain to be answered by me.
No, sir.
Kindly give me the time.
No. As I see you, he has to answer that. That is the question raised by him. He cannot conveniently go out of that.
There was one question made by a senior citizen.
Still he is not answering.
Telling that when there is 144, why you are apologetic? That is first part.
That is my first
The
question.
second part from our lady member. That's a particular area alone that was demarked for 144. It was not to be extended other area. Again, our panelist also said about 144 that was being extended even 15 days after 15 days. But all these things, I just to put it as she said, an advocate, I put it here. Clamping 144 is pure and administrative decision. Even the court can never dictate, nor the management, nor any other people. It is studying, gauging the situation. The police on the spot, or the police, the head of the police, has to take a decision whether 144 was required or not. So here the 144 was made to contain the situation, causing that many problems would arise. That is one part. Other part is 144 is not the pre-necessity for police to operate. At any time, when the crowd, even 144 is not clamped, even when the crowd, in the judgment of the police on the spot, if they think that crowd would turn unruly, they can immediately declare the crowd as unlawful assembly, and they can resort to use the force to the extent the dispersal required. That is very clear. Let us make it very clear. The other one is whether they have followed the procedure. Regarding the shooting, our panelist said that the police has been instructed or even under the statute to shoot the people under the knee. There is no such law. With due apology, with due respect to our advocate, I make it very clear. You can cite the law, we will follow it. There is no law, there is no procedure, there is no police standing order that directs the police that you must shoot below the knee or you must shoot only to the sky. All these things are the creation of our own people. We follow certain procedure to avoid killing the people. No, we are trained to for shooting with a proverb, shoot to kill. But we make the shooting only to scare the people, not to kill the people. But unfortunately, sometimes this kind of event or incident takes place, for which we also repent for it. We are not happy by killing the people. But here, with regard to this procedure, police on the spot, they tell the commission, they tell the people, they have sent the report telling that they had followed all the procedures that are laid down there. But now, since there is many commissions inquiring into it, it is up to them to find out whether they had followed the procedure or not. I am not able to answer to your questions. If they have followed, it's okay. If they not followed, let them face them easy. We have taken the matter to the court also. There's a need for it. But mind it, always we talk about the machineries, we talk about the police, law and order machineries, but have we ever talked about the behavior of the crowd, the behavior of the people, the behavior of the protesters? Never we have talked. Now, most of them we talk. See, to put it in a nutshell, I would say many police officers would not like to serve in the department because of the reason that they are being insulted with filthy languages in close quarters. They bear it. Why should they bear it? For this uniform. Pledging their self-respect. They work even in the worst situations. I am not generalizing or I am not justifying what we have done there in Sterlite operation. Certainly, one gentleman was telling our electrical engineer, yes, where is the restraint? You are telling that you are compelled to use the force, but at the same time you are telling that you are restrained. Yes, we are compelled to use the force, but not to the extent of killing 13 people. That is why I said we could have been restrained. Normally the crowd psychology is, once we open fire that kills 1 or 2 people, the crowd will immediately get dispersed. But here, the operation was manifold because the crowd was all around. That is why the officers on the different side, being in charge of the situation, might have ordered. But that all would come to light in the inquiry, in the investigation. There are forums which are checking the police action. We will wait for someone's act. If the police is wrong, okay, very much. This is a democratic state. You must be punished. Whoever the people, whichever forum they are serving with, they have to be punished if they are wrong. If not, it's okay. Fine, thank you.